Inmendham video. Still awfully tired for some reason, but whatever. I'll endeavor to persevere. So, Stefan Molyneux, famous for what? I don't know. Anarchy. you know, selling it. Being able to sell something that's silly. So, it's sort of an impressive credential, I suppose, that he talks pretty much shit and somehow people listen. But he does sort of have a thing, there's whatever that is, this charisma thing. He strings words together and expressions and things, eye-opening, and people somehow, it little triggers trigger in their brains and they go, oh yeah, yeah, I get it. I don't know how they do that, but they do it. So anyway, what pisses me off about idiots who tell you not to have children. Well, first off, I don't think anybody's doing this, telling people not to have children. What they're doing is saying, hey, can you appreciate that it's not a great idea to essentially play God, pretend that you're capable and competent and that you have all the bases covered and that you're going to do something that isn't going to hurt somebody. And we all know it's like, out of consideration to our neighbors, for example, most people don't sit there and try to, I don't know, smelt metals in their backyard or something, because they might be worried that the smell might be bothersome to somebody, or they might burn their house down, or they have some conscious awareness that it has implications and that they should have like a bucket of water, maybe, if they're going to do it, or something else. They should be prepared, and that there's really no way to be prepared for this creating living things thing, because who knows what you're going to get, and who knows what's going to happen to you, and your capacity to cover all of those bases is impossible. And so it's really risky. And it's not risky with you. I mean, in some sense, yes, you're risking your happiness and welfare, but you're clearly risking somebody else's. And it's just kind of, it's not just kind of, it's rude. I mean, unless you really can make an argument that you got it covered, you got it covered, you got it covered. There's no catastrophic risk here. And that's not the roller coaster we put kids on. There isn't any safe roller coaster. And so anyway, so it's a simple argument. You're just trying to tell people, hey, have you considered this stuff? Or are you just a whimsical, silly thing that just does what everybody else's does, Well, I have a penis, I should use it for that purpose because that's why God invented it, right? Yeah, like God invented that. I mean, it's just gonna be a silly. Nature says so. I mean, well, of course, and so it pisses him off that people say things like, "Well, come on, you're not that silly," to just march off the cliff because nature says so. So if you're one of those little puffin birds or something, when you know, 3/4 of you are going to be fox food, you jump off the cliff anyway. Come on. If you were a salmon, you'd still swim up the stream once you knew it's a death sentence. It's a cook fucking book. This whole culture we have is a cookbook. And it's all about tenderizing the meat before you cook it. And then we're feeding it to delusions. We're feeding it to the Three Bears and Goldilocks. And we're not even feeding anything real, just silly notions of accomplishment. And here we are pounding the little critters into submission. You would sentence your kid to have to clean up the mess you've made. I mean, just look how, Peterson or whatever his name talks about cleaning your room. We haven't even touched anything in the civilization house in hundreds of years in terms of doing anything meaningful. I mean, what was the last great human adventure? Was maybe the Hoover Dam. I mean, landing on the moon was okay, but obviously that wasn't very productive. I mean, basically, it's kind of just a whimsical thing. It wasn't serving people. Just be careful how I use that rhetoric, right? So I haven't even started the video yet, right? So this will be a while probably, because I'll probably want to get into the whole psychology of, how are you people actually thinking? I mean, what are you doing when you think? Because you're clearly just rationalizers. I mean, you rationalize every single bad thing that happens. You're just silver lining it. every awful thing that is a circumstance of our existence or a circumstance of our cultural taste, even stuff that's just a matter of tradition, like eating meat, where there's no physical evidence that you need to survive. Lots of people have proven you can live without doing it, and yet you talk as if you must. It's an obligation. It's not something we choose to do. We don't choose to, you know, torment animals and then brutally kill them for our convenience. But that's the overt truth. You won't even concede the overt truth that you're not nearly doing good enough to have any right to claim we need to keep my presence here. I've earned it. I've earned another game. No, you didn't earn it. You played really badly, and you haven't even done the worst part, which is when you get the hammer and squished and your guts pop out, and you're talking like this is a sure thing.
The anti-natalist stuff in general is a...
Well, we have to go back because he starts the video in this weird way. He starts it with a jump cut, which is, bizarre.
The anti-natalist stuff in general is a siege against intelligence, because in order to understand the anti-natalist arguments, you'd have to have pretty high IQ.
All right, so everything always starts with dopey premises. I've been reading up on like these stupid liberals with their, where they're justifying deficit spending, MMT, modern monetary theory or something, and it's just so fucking retarded. I mean, it's just simply putting it on credit cards and then shoving the credit card in your kid's pocket. That analogy is perfectly complete, and they're using all kinds of nonsensical notions about reality to sit there and try to pretend that's not the truth. I mean, it's just insane. And so here's this false premise, that somehow it's a complex idea and only intelligent people are, that this is some sort of intelligence wanking or something like, you're just letting your logic get in your way kind of thing or something. No, I mean, it's just kind of an obvious circumstance. You're playing a game, and the idea is you assess what's the nature of it. I mean, what does it accomplish? And what we see accomplished in most lives is a lot of torment and agony and pain and trial and tribulation and struggle and all of this crap. And why is it happening? Is because they have some deluded notion, just a deluded notion in their head of accomplishment. No evidence of accomplishment, just a silly notion of it.
So it's like a bioweapon that strikes the high IQ gene set in order to wipe it out from social...
So always turn everything into some sort of master plan. So another scapegoat to the evil government. The Fed did it. It's always some sort of bullshit. It's just a simple logical progression that, yes, if you acquire a little bit of awareness of being alive and what it means, you'll start to think about the cost effectiveness of what you're doing. And simple things like, yeah, well, if we don't have to, it's like even the evil people, I mean, the people rationalizing their behavior, they have some awareness that they don't want slaughterhouses just whacking things, or just, stabbing animals to death or something. They wouldn't let a farmer go out into his barnyard when it's slaughter time and just start shooting the animals with bows and arrows, because they know that's not really the right way to do it. And that's all this is about. It's just taking that responsibility to apply your intelligence and just saying, is there an intelligence? Is there any intelligence in this idea of saying this is a game worth perpetuating? This consumption and reproduction in this insidious manner where all you're doing is creating things that are need machines, and you're not creating enough satisfaction, and so therefore you have a lot of action because there's only a little bit of satisfaction, there's a lot of need, and you think because it's all jiggling and moving that that's a good thing. The bag of bacteria is active and therefore it's successful. No, it's all failure, because the needs never needed to exist. And though all those needs are just in your head. It's like you can't point to the need somewhere that says humans need to exist. Just like you can't rationally make an argument that somehow Martians need to exist or Uranians need to exist, that somehow the universe is horribly deprecated because they don't really exist. I mean, Vulcans, Vulcans never really existed, never really happened. And then the non-existent Vulcans were killed in a movie, and oh, what a tragedy! Oh, none of it actually happened. It's just a story, and the story is just as good as the reality. It wouldn't make any difference if it was a story or it's reality, because it's made out of nothing but notions in your head.
Consideration. And of course, the powers that be don't like very smart people because smart people don't need the powers that be. And so,
Well, whatever that means, I don't think anything that has this whole idea of what a smart person is. You mean a conniver or a wheeler dealer or somebody willing to mortgage their mother's house and go to Las Vegas and gamble it, or I mean, we know most of the people who are successful are successful because they usually had some sort of daddy to come to the rescue or some other bullshit. You have to get really lucky in life to cross that winner's finish line. It's never just about what you did.
if you end up with your human livestock no longer needing you as a farmer, and they're smart enough to figure out, like, one of the big problems that's happened is with increased technology, you don't need nearly as much government. You've got reputation systems, you've got credit score systems easily available. You can search people.
Yeah, but none of that without some other authority to watch what they're doing would mean anything. Okay, so if there wasn't some place that would put the bankers in jail if they just start stealing the money from accounts and just wait for enough people to figure out that it wasn't a lie, like all of a sudden my money disappears and my account disappears. Well, everybody will say, well, you're Gary, you're full of shit. You're probably just making it up that you had $500,000 in the bank. you know and so then we'd be reliant on some system where, yeah, it takes enough people to get screwed before they can fight back, and then they're going to fight back in some way because there's no authority. They're going to fight back in some terrorist way, right? It's not going to work. It's just whatever that is, that so she's shoving some of his anarchy crap in here, of course.
Line to figure out where they're coming from and whether they're trustworthy or not. There's lots of cool things that you can do in order to avoid the kind of problems that a lack of information about someone will lead you to.
Yeah, well, you really can't do any of it. You have to have there has to be some trusted authority. And so you're just deluding yourself if you think you can create any kind of network where it doesn't have to ultimately meet scrutiny from something, some force that has the capacity to punish bad behavior.
So as technology has improved and increased, the need for the state has decreased. And so
again, I don't even know if that's true. I mean, I haven't bothered to waste time thinking about what the need of the state is exactly, what purpose it serves. In the sense that for most people, I think they're not getting what purpose it should serve is that it should give us the alternative to escape the connivers and the wheeler dealers, the sham artists, the crooks. I should just be able to, buy a product from a company called Fair Deal or whatever, and they just have everything open source, everything. Hey, look, this is what we pay our employees. This is how often we clean our machine. This is what we bought it from. We're not hiding anything. We're just trying to do the best job we can to make a potato chip. And we're not afraid of scrutiny because guess what? None of us are billionaires. None of us are playing you. Okay, we're all honest people trying to make a living. All right, and we get paid a fair wage to come to work and do our job. And that's all we get paid for, to do our job, not to be owners, not to rent you potato chips, not to connive you into buying potato chips. Now, that would be an excellent role for government, is to establish the mechanism that would create such industry that would keep all the other industry honest. So we should always have the fair player choice, the not-for-profit. I'm just trying to do an honest day's work. Yeah, I want to vote for that. I don't want to vote for conniving entrepreneurs like yourself who just keep shoving shit and selling shit and conniving shit and figuring out, well, if I use the word whatever, yeah, whatever, oh, that works. That's a good keyword. That's a good Twitter word. That's a good blah, blah, blah. Always just conniving. You're all just connivers. You don't give a shit about the gameplay. You just care about your position in the gameplay. You're just doing the what's in it for me thing, and you're thinking, oh yeah, because of the invisible hand, that'll make everything turn out wonderful. When we already know what that makes everything turn out to be. King of England, King of France, Emperor of Poland. I mean, it just ends up being a bunch of monarchies and monopolies.
If the need for the state is decreasing, then you want to replace your high IQ population with a low IQ population.
Whatever that means. So this whole IQ population thing. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever demonstrated that the difference in IQ is any more than a 3% or something, 2%. Tiny little numbers. And, that's always got some kind of cultural bias built into it. Obviously, it takes some amount of intelligence to survive on no means. Having no money and surviving requires a bit of intelligence. So the poor are tested often, especially in other countries where we just don't hand them their checks. But this idea that this is about intelligence when it's really about taking whatever human you have and maximizing their potential. Again, the difference between the North American Indians when the Europeans showed up wasn't their IQ, okay? It was just their amassed knowledge. So yes, the Europeans figured out how to do the, complex language, good book writing, acquire facts and details. They acquired a lot of knowledge, and yet they didn't even have the knowledge to figure out, hey, you know what? These guys were probably our brother and sister, literally, our brother and sister 20,000 years ago. And here we are slaughtering them. And they're the children of our brothers and sisters. And they couldn't figure that out. And yet they were supposed to be so intelligent. See, intelligence doesn't mean shit. Reality isn't that complicated. Again, it's the fact that people get stupid things into their head, and our head is like flypaper, and shit sticks to it. And and if you try to peel it off, it sticks to your fingers, and it sticks to this, and I mean, you can't, so you got to keep it clean. As soon as you get any lint and dirt and crud in your brain, it's really hard to clean the surface so it can accept A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, keep everything in order. If you don't keep it, if you don't get things in the right arrangement on the sticky paper and you try to move them around later, it just doesn't work very well. And that's the real problem with dealing with human beings, is they're fanatic traditionalists like yourself.
Who will fight and hit their kids and get divorced and be unstable and do dumb things and need.
Sorry, I didn't realize how low the volume was. I don't know whether it's better. I better not go too high because then this video is going to be weird. Well, it is what it is. I'm going a little bit higher, but I probably shouldn't, because once you change it, then you're really going to screw things up. But I didn't realize how low it was. Anyway, so what did you just say? Who cares?
You as the government. That's sort of basic. So
more government talk, this doesn't really have anything to do with the philosophical position that from lots of different reasoning ways, there's lots of reasoning you can apply to the question of what it is having children, and whether it's something wise for people of modest means, or whether it's wise for people who don't have the personal temperament, or whether it's wise if all you're thinking about really is some sort of ego thing, like I want a little me running around or some kind of crap like that.
As far as this antinatalism stuff goes, I just view it as a horrible, horrible attack upon the reproductive capacities of the more intelligent among us.
Again, the reproductive capacities. Reproductive in what way? Reproduction is more than just making babies. It's actually raising your kids. Now, Donald Trump's son goes out and kills shoots tigers, lions, elephants, all kinds of, goes out and kills them because he can buy a big gun, and he can buy people to protect him, and he can buy the ticket. You can buy the amusement park ticket. What did Donald Trump teach his kid? Anything rational? Anything reasonable? They're all just the spawn of scum. Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump was smart. I'm just saying this idea that intelligent people have intelligent kids. A lot of intelligent people really like their work, and they really don't want to spend the time to maturate their children. And then that's another thing where you get into so much trouble anyway, because if you really are intelligent and you think about having a kid, the real problem is that you understand from your own life experience often that there's huge liabilities, and there's decisions you can make as a kid that'll decide the rest of your future, and that it's really dangerous to run with scissors in your hand, or there's millions of things that are very dangerous. And so the more intelligent you're going to be, the more likely that your kid is going to end up pretty neurotic, because you're going to be giving him the fact that you know better, that you know how messy this can get, that you know how careful you have to be. All of those emotions are going to be bled into your kid, and you might end up with a pretty neurotic fucktard after that. So this idea that intelligent people have either the devotion, the time, because they're busy, they have passions in the world, they want to do things, they're important, and raising kids is a full-time job, and it's so clear that people don't want that full-time job. So this whole idea that these intelligent people are going to have these kids, the kid's going to be raised by the institutions.
And it is a lie and a falsehood. I mean, if you want to be antinatalistic, you know where you want to go? You want to go to a place, I don't know.
Why do I have to go to a place? So why did I say that to you? If you want to be anarchistic, why don't you go to a place and be that? Yes, why don't you go do that? Why don't you go off to some place and be anarchistic? It's a belief, okay? It's a philosophical perception of reality. It's a statement that you have to challenge with an argument. The argument can't be, go away. That's pussy bullshit. You have to counter argue that somehow they're wrong to think this might not be worth perpetuating, that we might be more, friction than function.
Sub-Saharan Africa, or Saudi Arabia, or certain backwaters of Pakistan, or who knows what. Like, where an antinatalist argument would have been really, really helpful?
Yeah, I would have loved to be able to persuade Muslims not to be Muslims. I'd love to be able to convince them that if you have to believe in something, believe in Goldilocks. I mean, just something besides, read Dr. Seuss and let's pretend, some of the stuff is real. Horton did hear a who or something. I mean, that's a harmless fairy tale where obviously there's silly, whatever, Mohammed rules and we all must bow and we got to pray to him 3 times a day and sing and do all this other crap. I mean, at least fucking Horton wouldn't obligate you to do all that shit. Pray to the dust, the hoobies, pray to them. He wouldn't force you to do that. Kill all the non-dust believers. It's not Horton's way. Yeah, so I would have loved to be able to convince all the morons on Earth to quit being morons. I'm all for that. Why didn't you do it? Yeah.
If they had talked about it, say, in South Africa, among the black community. Why? Because the black population went up 800% under apartheid. Now, if the black population had not gone up 800%, there could have been quite a bit more wealth in the black community. Because
so there could have been quite a lot more wealth in the black community, but that never comes even close to addressing how the wealth is held in South Africa back then, which was held by inheritance. So, I mean, it's sort of a silly notion to say that, well, why don't the Indians just buy America back from us? And then they'll make the argument in North America. He'll make the argument, well, the North American Indians didn't populate enough. They didn't reproduce enough, so they couldn't buy back America because there wasn't enough of them. And they'll make the exactly opposite argument in Africa, that somehow there was too many natives. And so, yeah, if there would have been less natives, then they could have bought South Africa back. I mean, this is just silly logic. You know, the Aborigines should buy Australia back from the Australians.
They converted their sudden wealth under apartheid and other systems into just having more and more kids. Now, if people had gone and said to the black community, hey, maybe don't have quite so many kids.
Yeah, it's always a bad idea. I mean, fuck for poor people to have children. It's really, really, really fucking stupid. So maybe we can agree on that. Poor people having children is really dumb. But even dumber would be for the white people or the non-poors or the whatever, the smart people who don't have kids, is to watch them doing something really dumb and then say, I can do dumb even better. Yeah. Well, what are you saying? That the whatever the savior class, okay, should get into a population race war? Oh, please.
Well, maybe Africa would be doing a whole lot better at the moment. But no, they don't go to those places.
Well, look, I mean, lots of reasons why Africa doesn't do better, okay? I mean, in some places it's because they're living in places that nobody could do better in because you die when you're 40 years old because there's so many fucking goddamn little bacteria thingies out to kill you. So, yeah, there's some places in Africa shouldn't even be populated by human beings. But you're the exact antithesis, well, whatever. You're a perfect poster child in some sense for, I mean, you're poning your own argument in the sense that you're demonstrating by pointing to human beings that do stupid things for stupid reasons. You know, that doesn't make any sense. They didn't apply logic. They don't calculate how it works out. I mean, they're people. You walk up to them in Africa and you stick the microphone in front of their face and you say, well, you only have 1 acre of farmland and you have 12 kids and your kids will divide up the land you have when you're dead, and none of them will be able to survive on the size of the plot that they'll be inheriting. So they're all going to die. And you could, you know, and the guy say, yeah, that was really dumb. So what are you proving? You know, you're just proving that people do stupid things, and then you're saying one of the stupid things they do is over replicate, you know, have too many children, and then you're saying, well, these smart people should have figured out how they're supposed to have more kids. No, they got the right answer. Anyway, yeah, keep making my arguments for me. Thank you.
What if they go to the places with the highest birth rates? Look at some of the Middle Eastern immigrants into Europe, extraordinarily high birth rates. Are they going to those people and saying, oh, you got to cut back on the number of kids you're having? No.
Yeah, no, I'm perfectly willing to tell Muslims to shoot themselves in the face. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. So if you want to point to certain cultural people, okay, I'm not going to do it for racial reasons, but you want to point to a certain cultural attitudes and points of view, I'll be happy to tell those people to blow their own brains out because they're scum. But I mean, what's the point? Okay, again, you're making my argument for me. People have kids for dumb, stupid reasons. And now you're just saying the smart people should somehow imitate the retarded behavior. No, they should try to stop the retarded behavior. They first say, I'm not going to rape, and then they stop the rapist. They first say, I'm not going to kill animals for convenience, and then they stop the people who keep doing it. I mean, what's so complicated here?
They're going to hyper self-conscious, obsequious white people saying, don't have so many kids, it's bad for the planet. Come on. So white people get replaced with...
It's not bad for the planet. It's bad for the kids. You just don't give a shit. You just say, okay, I don't care. If it comes out retarded or fucked up, so what? It's going to suffer. I'm not. You're completely just pretending that there isn't some truth to what human beings are. And that you'd be perfectly proud if I was to take average human, you know, and make one, like a little Homer Simpson, average human, and you'd be proud to have that as a son. Oh, bull fucking shit.
Like one white kid gets replaced with like 7 Middle Eastern kids and somehow that's good for the planet? It's nonsense.
Oh, so again, he's just turning this into some racial argument. You've already lost that war. Okay, we all got to concede. As soon as we, invented boats and whatever, bicycles and, all these little conveyance objects, that we were going to start screwing each other, and any kind of genetic identity that any of us have is going to die. So yeah, there's no North American Indians really, purebreds left, and there are probably very few South American Indian purebreds left. So yes, it's all going to get modified in the end. And you can lament that that's what the human condition will come down to. But that's where it's, I mean, was there some other thing that was realistically going to happen besides people saying, like I said, in the future, they can sit there and do that. They can just press buttons on a computer and say what kind of baby they want, what kind of traits do they want it to have. But again, what are they forming this thing out of except their own subjective, territorial, traditional values? They're not doing it out of anything called logic. They're not logically demonstrating that this is the best design. Nothing like that. They're not testing them in any kind of fair way. It's just retarded. But you're using our familial, nepotistic, even, racist or whatever that is, identity. We're using our personal identity psychology against people by using these kinds of cheap arguments. Do you want all the white people to be eliminated? Some kind of, appeal to what? What is that an appeal to? I want the world to be made out of jelly beans, and they're trying to make it out of strawberries or something. I mean, what's an appeal? It's not an appeal to logic or reasoning. It's just an appeal to these personal prejudices.
So yeah, antinatalists, it's just anti-white. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah. Sorry, it's laughable, right? I mean, it's just, there's just absolutely, I don't understand how it could even be that way, even if you acknowledge that white people are less likely to be in hard poverty by a percentage than brown people. I would clearly argue that most antinatalists are worried about the poor people. They don't care what color they are.
I would say it's nonsense. I mean, if you feel that human life is so terrible, then every antinatalist is in control of one human.
Yes, well, whatever. I think it's about more than just human life. It's about life in general. DNA molecule works by making hundreds or thousands of something, and have them 90% of them get slaughtered in brutal ways to test, the device, the thing, the code. And so it's huge attrition. It's basically, as I pointed out, it's the serial molestation and slaughter of children. And you're okay with that, though. You're okay with killing most of the things. Okay, for humans it isn't that bad, but clearly it was in our past, and clearly it is for the animal kingdom. And so you just think it's okay to, you would be perfectly satisfied if you were God, and the rule was to make one adult lion, you had to take a hammer and beat to death 9 cubs. And you'd do it because you thought it was worth it.
Life that they can check in anytime they want. Not that I'm suggesting it, but that would be a logical.
Yeah, right. It has nothing to do with being logical, right? I mean, any rational person knows the word future, right? That's not a complex word, future. I mean, you have past, present, and future. Now, that's sort of like ABC kind of stuff. That's no big, huge IQ required. And if you think about it a little bit, what a future is a long, big thing, present, little tiny thing, and that you can figure out in your head that consciousness will exist, that just like you, it'll show up in places, like all of a sudden you're going to just go, I'm in Indonesia. I'm going to live now, here in Indonesia. And you're going to try to work it out. and that's going to be the same thing that everybody does. That's what always ever. And so if you're sentencing any consciousness to it, it might as well be your own, because there's no real difference in how it works. You just wake up someplace and you're here and you're stuck with what you're stuck with, which is, you know, a whore mother and a deadbeat dad, and you know, an economy that's just going to beat the shit out of you. And you're going to live in dirt and filth for, you know, 40 years until some fucking worm eats your heart.
Outcome. Rather than convincing other people not to have children, you could take care of at least one human life yourself. Again, not that I'm suggesting it, it just would be a logical.
Oh, yeah, it's whatever. It would be somehow logical. So I would argue that clearly anarchy isn't going to happen, so you might as well just kill yourself, Stefan. This is never going to happen, so just kill yourself, and then you'll eliminate your pain and suffering of having to live in an unsatisfactory world, because you'll be a much better, you know, you'll be so much more effective in fighting for the cause when you're dead, of course. I mean, you know, causes don't need people to be alive to fight them. No, the best fighters for causes are dead people.
Outcome. Most people think they're describing the world, they're just describing themselves. Honestly, I see this all the time on my channel. I see this in comments. You know, your videos are just too long.
So that means they have a big penis? I mean, how is that a description of themselves? Amazing. Okay, they're describing their own short attention span, maybe. Or maybe it is that, yes, they have to work 10 hours a day, and they really just have almost so much time to do this educational stuff, and yeah, they just can't do it in all these big, long, drawn out, detailed statements or something, or all this poetry. You know, they want you to get to the point. But I mean, I tell them that, I say that's impractical. Okay, you can't expect this to be unwoven, this mess. You know, it's really difficult to pull this stuff off this sticky paper and move it to another location. You know, it takes time to do it, because it is all sticky, and you have to, oh dear, I can't touch that. Oh, I touched that. Oh, it's stuck to my shirt. Oh, you know, it's a little bit difficult doing this maneuvering.
Well, maybe their attention span is too short. But they can't think of that, right? Because, or like I did a video, it just went out today, why people hate Donald Trump. I said at the very beginning, this is going to be a long and complex argument, be patient.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure it's a silly one, because it's kind of obvious why he's completely hateable. I mean, he's a guy who didn't earn it, who's pompously stomping around like he's a winner when he lost, and then he lost some more, and then he lost again, and then he lost again, and then he lost again. He's the biggest loser in the history of whatever, the special economy Olympics that he was in, and he didn't even win the special economy Olympics. And he's walking around saying, I'm not a retard. You know, and it's just completely retarded. And clearly his spawn is all retarded, so there's more evidence that he is actually retarded.
And then how many times did I see in the comments below, this argument takes too long to get to the point. This argument starts off too early. It's like,
know what your arguments lack, at least this one. Focus. I mean, this subject is anti-natalism. So is this all part of the poetry? This is all how you fuck people's brains? Is you just don't bother staying on the subject at all? Like 3% of this video will be about something about having babies, and the 97% is just going to be all these tangential, gee, you have a, I love your crooked face or something, some sort of smoke you're blowing to these special interests who, where you're going to pretend that you're telling them how smart they are because they know how stupid everybody else is. Yeah, we know. We're the knowers. They're the not knowers. Whatever it is you're doing.
So I say the argument's going to be long and complex, and a huge number of people are absolutely shocked that the argument is long and complex. They have no idea. So if an antinatalist is saying, the world is misery, the world is unhappiness.
Yeah, it's not what they're saying, but, you sort of have to understand that we're not designed to be satisfied. We're poised to be dissatisfied, and that's what makes us hungry, and that makes us chase and fight. And the whole game is about fighting. It's a game of a fake, contrived bloodbath. and you don't see you being played by a DNA molecule. Okay, I thought you might be smart enough to figure that out. That the whole competition is a contrivance for the purpose of refinements on a DNA molecule. Making superficial um, um, blade sharpening for the gladiators. Oh yeah, well it's better to have a blade that has a rounded surface, and we're just engineering ways to carve each other into pieces, and that's what we're designed to do, because we're designed to be these little selfish monsters that go into the world and, by hook or crook, often deserve having nothing to do with it, especially now, because now we can break the rules. It's not a physical contest anymore. It's not about surviving, environmentally strong genes. It's about now having genetic code that allows you to, perhaps kill and eat your mother. That might be the winning strategy in the future. And you people go along with it and say, I'm playing a great game. No, the game is stupid.
The world is nihilism. The world is tragedy. It's like, you think you're talking about the world? You're just talking about yourself. Watching most people talk about the world is like watching some bird attack a pretend bird in a mirror.
Okay, yeah, you had to think about that. Oh yeah, it's like watching other carnage in nature. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, that's what it's like, isn't it? Yes, it's like watching carnage. We exploit people, we take complete advantage, we rape them all over the place. It's all just made out of this horrible, selfish consumption. And it's so self-defeating in the sense that all of the feeling things matter. All the little birds in the nest matter. They all have feelings, and yet half of them end up dumped on the ground before the game even starts. Before the game even starts. You know. So, and this all makes logical sense to you. It makes logical sense. You would make a sea turtle, and you would create an organism that creates, say, 10,000 prodigy, fully formed, fully sentient in whatever turtle sense. And in the first 2 years, 98% of them are dead, and pecked to death or, eaten alive. That's okay with you. That's the deal. You'd go for it. You'd sign your kid up for that fun. If the town offered fun like that, like a 98% chance of getting squished to death or something, run over by a steamroller, you'd sign your kid up for it because, hey, there's a 2% chance, that you get the candy bar. I mean, fuck. You'd want to live the average human life. You'd want to live the average mammal life. Then I think you're psychotics, frankly.
Peck, peck, peck. They think there's another bird there. It's just a reflection. They're not seeing the world. They're seeing, right? They don't see the world as the world is. They see the world as they are.
So that somehow he's proven the argument, because I have a video of a little kitten doing that in a mirror. Very cute. So there, I can just call it Stefan. Yeah, that's Stefan playing with himself. Playing with his own little silly notions. It's not really a logical argument, I don't think. It's sort of like the argument from your hair is short. Like really short.
So the antinatalist argument is simply a confession that you're a miserable bastard. You're a miserable, nihilistic...
Oh, right. You're nihilistic because you care. You recognize the value, and you see it wasted and squandered. I just, how do you make that argument that they're taking? No, they're saying they're defending. It's a defensive position. No mas, and you're saying no mas isn't acceptable. Okay, because I'm going to force you to wake up in Indonesia, and I'm going to force you to be born with the diseases and blind and all kinds of stuff. And you're just going to have to replay this stupid pageant over and over again from all these lousy positions. Oh, yes, that's the kind of feeling, like a kind of nausea that just falls on you when you start, oh no, forever and ever. Oh no, I have to get in that wheelchair and the tracheotomies and all this shit. I don't want to do that over and over and over again. No mas, fucker. Stick things up your own ass. Don't create new asses to stick things in. Just keep shoving stuff up your own ass. Blow yourself to bits. Playing the game.
Do nothing, wet blanket, piss on human happiness kind of bastard. You're a dementor. You are a Nazgul. You are a horrible.
Right. So this is I guess some kind of notion that everybody who has kids, it's human happiness. So this is another one of the arguments where you're saying, okay, now I can't convince you. It says, you're blaming me because I'm being smart enough to evaluate. And as a selfish shithead, I have to admit there's lots of selfish reasons not to have kids. Because one of the problems is as an intelligence, again, I understand the responsibility that everything that happens, everything that kid experiences is on me. If I let too big a mistake, if I give it too much latitude, too much freedom, it's on me. It's my responsibility. If I don't force a little of this and force a little of that to make sure the kid becomes educated or civilized, if I don't kind of force him to be, then I failed him monstrously. And he ends up a drug addict or some other kind of crap, and it's all on me. And frankly, I can't see how the fuck that's happiness. So you derive human happiness by watching kids like run on cement sidewalks all day or something, like this 4-year-old kind, where they're all kind of still wobbly and messy, and you're just watching and you're just saying, when is it going to happen, right? When is the kid going to go face forward into this fucking cement? And that's fun for you assholes. It's not fun for me. Not even close. It's like the exact, Frank, it's kind of amazing, but yeah, it's like the exact opposite of fun. It's like horrible sickness to watch failure. It's not fun at all, especially when it's mine.
Soul-sucking, depressing human being to be around. You can't stand who you are. You can't stand thinking it's just you. You can't stand the idea that there's a happiness out there that...
All right, so anybody listening to this, is that what you really think, that the anti-natalists are so miserable, that they're such failures, that their life is so shitty, that that's why they're afraid of the future? No, I think it's the other way around, is that they sort of recognize that they've gotten really lucky, that you get by in this game by just the thinnest of good fortune. They might be a little more attractive and this and that, and they've sort of been lucky, and they know the next time around they're going to be playing with a worse deck. Even with a good deck, this game is really difficult to play because your wife's still going to get cancer and all kinds of shitty shit is going to happen. So even with a good hand, this is a horrible game to play. But that the next hand you get, you're not going to have the wild cards and the fun card. You're going to have 2s and 3s and 6s and stuff. It's not going to be a fun game to play. So he doesn't even get that part right.
It eludes you. So you say, life is pain. Life is pain. No, you're a pain. Life is misery. No, you're miserable. Life is tragedy. No.
Okay, so he just dismissed, all of it. Just saying, so, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you do surgeries, no morphine, no nothing, horrible experiences, human beings had to endure. Dying of the Black Plague, dying of cholera, all the stuff that happens to people. He just dismisses it all as it's not part of the equation. Suffering is not one of the components of value that we use to decide whether this thing works good. So in his analogy of how the car of life works, it doesn't consume any gasoline. It doesn't have any negatives. There's no negatives. It's a completely positive car. It creates no pollution. It goes as fast as you want. It never gets into a car accident. It's nothing but good because there's no price to be paid, no horror to be endured, because that's all just meaningless. And then he calls other people nihilists. I mean, amazingly clueless.
No, the tragedy is you think life is tragedy, and therefore you can't be happy. Life is horror. No.
So again, more crap about how this is somehow about your happiness and not about some recognition that although you can be happy in life, all right, there's going to be the points where you have to pay for it, so to speak, and you will have to watch maybe your kids die horribly, over years of of cancer, orphaning their children. You might have to watch all kinds of things. Again, you'll have to watch, if you were lucky enough to find somebody to love and to love you, you might have to watch nature ravage that other person that you're supposed to love, and that those prices are going to be substantial. And it's just being trivial to say that this isn't uh, uh, a subject worth as much consideration as you can give it, because what's in the balance is torture. That's actually what we're debating right now. We're debating the necessity of the existence of torture. And you're just glibly saying, I'm confident, okay, it's worth it. The torture is just this little, it's nothing, it's meaningless. And the delusional notions of accomplishment of the little grunty people running through the little mouse maze is worth it. So if you were the maze king, and it was on you, this was your maze and your rats, you just ignore the fact if there was death and pain and suffering and misery, and you just say, look how fast they're moving. Isn't that cool? And just don't pay any attention at all to the pain. Like I said, I mean, you should be shot for being able to use the word, to accuse anyone else of being a nihilist when you're so clearly nihilistic towards any notion that there's a real question here, right there in front of you. Do you want that blood on your hands? And apparently you're perfectly comfortable. And the people who say, I'm not comfortable with that blood on my hands, you're insulting. As if, what are you paying attention to torture for? What do you think pain is real? I mean, it's you are kind of despicable.
You're horrible. See, that's different. And these are the people who say, anyone who's happy is a fool. Bullshit. There's not.
Well, I mean, happy what? Again, happy what? All the time? Yeah, then they're a fool. There's no other way around it. That's right. If you're happy all the time, you're a fool. You're an idiot. You're an imbecile. You are fucking retarded. Because, yes, there's just no way to live in the real world and do that. But again, he's trying to turn into some argument about the fact that somehow I can't enjoy a good meal, or I can't have some, humpy bumpy stuff and whatever this and that, and I can't do some rubby and sensually this and that and have a good time. Of course I can. The point is the price paid for it. And to keep pretending there's no price is retarded.
Nothing easier in the world than being miserable. Nothing. Just fire up Twitter. There's nothing easier in
Okay, so a trivial joke about a trivial mechanism trying to make some big idea point. So again, just Twitterize everything now. Now stick Twitter on me, or stick Twitter on... Yeah, no, that was none of my agenda, asshole. That's your agenda. Hashtag stupid fuck.
world than being miserable. If happiness is easy, why do so few people do it? If joy is so easy,
Well, as already pointed out, lots of people are doing it, and in ways that make the world a worse place. They keep congratulating and having babies and doing all this kind of stuff, and they all laugh about, real serious problems. They just laugh it off, and it's all a big joke because they're too stupid to recognize that it's on them.
Joy isn't. Listen, people are stupid as a whole. On average, around the world. If stupidity bred happiness, why are the least intelligent countries generally the least happy?
Oh, okay. Where do you get evidence of that? See, there's people who make a completely opposite argument, and they'll say that their quality of life is much higher because they don't have the stresses of the complexity of our lives. Their lives are much simpler. Go to the stream, get water. You might have to fight, the poisonous snake on the way, but that'll just be a good adventure, and then you'll have a story to tell, and blah 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 blah. But I mean, there's people that romanticize horrible poverty because it does simplify everything. No, you're just happy to get a glass of water.
Why? Why are the least intelligent people the least happy? Oh, don't get me wrong. They seem happy for a little while. There was a guy in my high school.
Okay, so another anecdotal waste of time story. So again, just that argument that somehow smart people are happy. Where's his evidence of that? Where's his evidence that even successful people are happy? Because what you see is them drug addicted, whore addicted. They can't seem to manage their lives at all. They seem to always be in some sort of chaos, and they seem insatiable in their appetites, and they end up being found dead, swinging from shower curtains, trying to suffocate themselves into a better orgasm. I mean, they seem rather desperately unhappy.
The party guy. Drank. Smoked. I'm sure he did drugs. He was a party guy. Fuck that math test, man. I'm gonna live in the now. And you're sitting there studying for your stupid math test. And he's out there having fun.
Is this one of your stories like the kittens thing? You're just playing with the mirror now. You're just doing an expose on yourself. I was a little nerdy who earned it, but they never gave me any blue stars. they always laughed at me.
Not studying for the math test. He's happy. He's relieved. He's having fun. He's dead now. Just heard it maybe a year or two ago. Died.
Oh, jeez. That's great evidence, isn't it? So one of the debaucherous using whatever people in the world actually paid for their bad behavior, where I could just point to millions who never did. I mean, my father smoked for 50 years and lived to be 96. Go figure.
He died. What did he die of? He died of fun. He died of alcoholism. Because he was having fun. So much fun. It's like the marshmallow test, right? One kid is like,
well, right. I don't even know how this analogy even fits at all. How does this fit in this subject at all? How am I supposed to understand how having a conversation about irresponsibility and stupidity and short-sightedness has something to do with the subject of antinatalism, where they're doing exactly the opposite thing? They're the people who are worried about having enough insurance. They're worrying about being able to pay the bills. They're worrying that it gets out of control, that they can't control the experiment. They're doing exactly the opposite, and you're using this as a metaphor for what? And even if cause and effect, because we have such an upside down and stupid culture where now you're probably going to get rewarded for doing exactly all those things, having, the people who save money aren't going to be rewarded when the system crashes. No, the people who didn't save their money are the ones who are going to get bailed out. The ones who save their money are going to get 4 cents back. They're going to get nothing. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of negative reward and punishment that goes on in our civilization because it's so disconnected from recognizing real prices and real values. So the very thing that Ananias are arguing is that you people are just not recognizing what has value in this game we're playing. You're just illustrating how you don't understand what has value. Because regardless of how it turns out, the principle is the thing that matters. And what was the honorable principle? The me first, have it now, or the no, let's evaluate what the implications are of the action and who it's going to affect and how it potentially affects them, and let's look at the economics of it. Is it rational? Is the risk in any way worth the reward? All right, probably enough for a part one, let's say. Yeah, it probably is. It's always good to have a second perspective, you know. I mean, obviously his arguments are so tangential. Again, there'll be a tiny percentage of his video, 2 minutes of it probably, are going to have something to do with the actual argument that involves the risk assessments involved in having children. Not only the ones for your personal welfare, but clearly and more importantly, the ones for the future's welfare. The big future. The future that we keep mortgaging, you know, ironically, right? I mean, you know, we're sitting here with trillions of dollars of debt that people have shoved in their kids' pockets, and we're talking about conversations about how wonderful it is to have kids. It's almost, you know, entirely inane. Yeah, insanely inane. Okay, I've had enough. Till next time and such. So forth and whatnot.